Hello guys, welcome back to Carnivore Team GB. I'm not sure what the session is, but we've been keeping this up now for nearly 1 year. I'm delighted today to be joined with the lovely Coach Stephen and the awesome Kent Carnivore, aka Lee Coppus. Or I've got that the wrong way around, but you know, guys. Anyway, if you guys do have any questions, please leave a Q below in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them through that means. I have a quick sweep round, quick update. I'm loving the purple, Stephen. Loving the purple.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm taking a leaf out of Richard's book, and I'm wearing shirts, so I thought I'd do sort of white, black, purple, blue. So that's me. Yeah, yes.
I'm just checking you out. Look, like it all looks dark. It all looks the same, doesn't it? So, oh, there you are. There it's the purple.
Yeah, I'm just I just wear my branded stuff today. I don't think I leave the house without a branded item of attire on at all. Why not? You know, even when I'm going out to the supermarket, everyone's like, "What are you wearing? What's carnivore muscle?" I'm like, "Oh, it's like just people that just eat a load of meat and go to the gym." Go figure. Anyway, we've got a super sticker. Just want to say thank you to MJ. I think it's been sent to one of your channels. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. If you do have any questions, please leave a Q in the chat. I might chuck up my banner. There we go. That works. You know what's going on then. All right, we'll continue. So first question is from MJ herself. Would appreciate your opinion. Serum cholesterol 5.1 millimole, triglycerides 1.2, HDL 1.4, LDL 3.2, triglycerides up from 0.6, zero carb, ate an extra pound of meat a day, possibly too much protein, HbA1c is 36, 12-hour fast, cholesterol look okay, thanks. That's a lot of questions for a lot of answers. Stephen, we'll refer to you for this one. Your field.
Well, you know, it's very minimal a set of numbers, and I know where they're coming from. Obviously, they're just worried about the lipid panel. I always believe that you could look at the lipid panel in the context of many other things like symptoms, and we've only got one previous number, so we can't see trends or anything like that. Serum cholesterol, I think, is a pretty pointless metric because it's still a calculation. It's not really measured. HDL, LDL, and triglycerides we can look at separately, but LDL is a calculated measure. All right. So I tend to go with triglyceride to HDL ratio as a thing to be most important out of those numbers there. So triglycerides 1.2, HDL 1.4, and that basically is what you want in. Not those particular numbers. I'm not, again, into raw absolute numbers, more into ratios. You want your triglycerides to be lower than your HDL. If you look at absolute numbers, they're pretty good. Your triglycerides have gone up from 0.6. So there's a trend, all right? So we're saying, okay, it's gone up double. 0.6 pretty low. I think you came onto the school community the other day and we did discuss this, I think. But anyway, if we didn't, I apologize. 0.6 is pretty low. 1.2 is pretty good in relation to the HDL, you see. So I'm pretty happy with that. Triglycerides can go up just from quantity of food. I mean, many people try to point to fat as the thing that puts it up. But actually, you know, if you're eating a lot of food, it will go up. I'm not sure when you were fasted or how long you were fasted for, because that can make a big difference. I'm finding some labs now are really good at actually nailing down and putting in the reports. I've got one to do in half an hour, so I can't really say too much, but they actually put the amount of fasting that was involved in getting that panel. So that would be really helpful, because if you did those bloods that you got there and you fasted for an hour longer, they'd all be very different numbers. If you fasted for an hour shorter, there'd be very different numbers. If you ate something an hour before, that'll be very different. So it's very dynamic. The HbA1c, I think it's a good number when you first go to carnivore, because we're still getting red blood cells living on the expected lifespan. But I wouldn't really, you know, use it much once you're about 3 years into carnivore, because we then have to do a reticulocyte count to see how long your red blood cells are living, because the HbA1c, I've bored these two guys about this so many times, is a calculation. It is based on estimated blood cell life, and if they live longer, you get an artificially high HbA1c, and if your red blood cells die sooner than they should, then you get an artificially low one. The best thing to do is your daily blood glucose, a continual glucose monitor. They are better than the HbA1c, but when you start, it's not a bad little metric. As a percentage, 36 is 5.4%, and you need to be over 6.5% to be in the alleged diabetic range. So, thoughts? Yeah, that's what I would say. Not bad. I'd rather see a whole panel. You can really tell nothing from that, to be absolutely frank. It's just a lipid panel. Now, if you had 10 lipid panels over the space of, like, I don't know, 3-4 years, and you had fractions, then you're cooking on gas. You've really got something to look at. But that just gets you started if you're interested in biohacking. Not a bad set of numbers, but my views on LDL as causal for the accumulation of plaque in the arteries is dubious, and that's being kind. So I think just look at other things, and you should be okay. Hopefully that's answered the question, but I'm happy to hear other people's opinion.
Yeah, I think a very based approach for sure. I'm pretty much the same mind personally. I don't look at any lipids at all, any ratios, any percentages, anything. The only thing I'd really look at in that one would be the HbA1c, which is apparently fine for what it's worth, as far as I can tell. So I wouldn't be too concerned myself. And obviously, MJ's pointed out the fact, she's done a 12-hour fast, which is just not eating overnight, I think. So that can impact things as well. I mean, if you extend to 14-hour fast, people always draw the conclusion of Sean Baker's testosterone level. Well, if he tested it an hour later, it'd be a different number. Doesn't mean much. The HbA1c does seem to be a good representation of what we've done over the last 3 months, roughly, apparently. Lee, what's your take on this kind of stuff, like the blood panel that you see?
I don't pay too much attention to it. I mean, I'm not one of these people that goes to get blood tests. I have done in correlation with my surgery. I don't care what they say. I present well. I feel good. And their concerns are always a non-issue in my opinion. Just one marker being LDL is elevated or something like that, or total cholesterol looks high. It's like, well, you haven't asked me about my lifestyle, my diet. And even if they asked me and I said I'm eating red meat and eggs, they'd be like, oh, well, you need to cut back on that so that we can pull down that marker. They just have a distorted outlook on it. And so for me, by looking at that, it's hard to tell if you've got any issues or not. But I think if you feel good, carry on. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So that's my thing, really. If I was really interested in getting the bloods done, I'll go and see someone like Stephen, who actually does understand, because there's very little people out there that really know how to interpret it properly based on the context of your lifestyle and your diet. It makes all the difference in the world. Like you said, every little thing that you change, these markers can go up and down. And it's understanding, well, what are you doing currently? How long ago did you drink? Did you fast? Did you sleep? Did you exercise? There's so much to it. Not even just diet. It goes on and on. There's multiple layers. So don't stress too much. Symptoms first, and then perhaps consult someone like Stephen if you're really interested.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I would do. I sent a few people over this week. I referred them to your channel, Stephen, so that you might get a few emails soon. I don't know.
All right, I've had one. Yeah, thank you.
I'll find you. No worries. Yeah, Coach Stephen Thomas is easy to find, guys. Super easy. And what I'm going to do is actually put his stuff on the screen if I can. Sorry, I'm not very well prepared today, but I want to basically put his deets on the screen. There's a button. There's a button, guys. Where is it? Where is the button? It's something like show names. Okay, I'm lost. I can't find it. If you guys know where it is, but yeah. But yeah, his it's www.theukcarnivore.com, I think.
Yes, it's the ukcarnivore.com. That's it.
Nice one. All right, we'll carry on with the next questions. I'm gonna try and find this button, guys. We've got a question. I think it's a question from Ismail Mir. Carnivore produce their own vitamin C, where herbivores get it from their diet. bit of misnomer. I think there's about 2 animals or carnivorous animals that actually don't produce their own vitamin C. We're one of them. I think the other one apparently is guinea pigs or hamsters or something like that. How do we know that? Basically, we've measured the blood levels of circulatory vitamin C in things like leopards, tigers, lions, when they've actually run. So if you think a big, massive animal, they're going to need a lot of vitamin C in their blood to help prevent excess oxidation, reduce lactic acid, things like that. So a massive animal is going to need to produce its own, because it's not going to be able to eat enough fruit from the trees because it can't reach, because it doesn't have the right grippers, the right hands. So they've obviously had to have that adaptation pressure to create more vitamin C. Us, we have to get it through our diet to probably a milligram degree, if I'm honest. But am I missing anything here, guys? Have I misread the question, or?
No, I think the person sort of put quite a few things like this about kind of carnivores, how they produce their own vitamin C or how they drink water and all this kind of stuff. In my opinion, what I would say to all of this is that every single living organism is entirely unique, and everything about their physiology, their biology, their anatomy is very unique to them. Even if, you put it under this term herbivore, all herbivores are different. Some have 4 stomachs, some are hindgut digesters, carnivores, we haven't all got claws and fangs and stuff like that, we don't make our own vitamin C, but we get all the vitamin C we need in meat because we're not, or for multiple reasons, but yeah, all carnivores, all herbivores, we're all very unique, we're very different. So I understand, but I don't usually like those kinds of arguments, because you start to sound like the people that are like, oh, we're not carnivores because we don't launch our food head first with fangs and claws. It's a silly argument. Obviously, we've got big brains, opposable thumbs. We can strategize and communicate. We can throw overhand targets to kill, targets. Like we've been doing this since the beginning of our genesis, and so we're all unique. It doesn't determine whether an organism is a carnivore or not.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous because the hagfish is a carnivore. Venus flytrap is a carnivore. There are caterpillars that are carnivores. It's not even worth arguing with such stupidity, really. I'm sorry, but it really is ridiculous, because we would have fangs and claws if we needed them, but we don't. Like Lee said, we've got a brain. When you look at cave paintings, there's no humans there leaping like a tiger. It's humans with tools, which gives us an advantage. So there's many different ways of looking at it, but just go back to basic biology and look at how many carnivores don't have the things that you say. You're focusing on one thing, the vitamin C, which could be switched off for real reasons. It's a bit like when you look at the enzyme for digesting lactose. 75% of the population, it switched off because that was something to do with the pressure on the DNA from the environment. So it's a silly argument and absolutely ridiculous whenever I see it, because there are so many carnivores that don't fit that. And you only need to use 2 or 3 examples to make people go, oh yeah, well, apart from that, yeah, but apart from that, and then you realize it's a ridiculous thing to say. So maybe we don't need so much vitamin C, and because we're so adaptive, we switched off that facility, because all of these things require energy to do. Well, once we started eating meat, do you know what's in meat? Vitamin C. So why would we need to make it? So there's lots of different ways you could look at it, but it's a silly way of looking at it, if you ask me. I just think there's fish, there's plants that are carnivores, caterpillars. It's ridiculous. They don't fit that description at all.
Yeah, it's all over the shop. This these arguments, when you sort of point out the flaws in their arguments, it's as if, no, they don't. Caterpillars don't have legs. They don't have arms. They've got cutlery and stuff, and it's like, you can't battle everyone.
Is that this like ability to throw overhead projectiles is to actually be able to reach fruit from trees? It's like, really? Okay, all right, yeah.
We've got an interesting shoulder joint. It does articulate in quite a unique way for a mammal, I guess. We're quite unique in that sense, but how much it helps us now? Not much at all. It means we can reach stuff in high cupboards, which is quite good if you're pretty short. But if you're tall like me, you don't have to worry too much. So I've pretty much got, I'm redundant when it comes to throwing stuff. I'm rubbish at throwing. I've got the negative adaptation pressure. We've got a question here about gallbladders and pancreatitis. Pet baby lover 41488 has said, "Good evening. My mother has chronic pancreatitis and no gallbladder, and often gets hypoglycemia. How can she implement a carnivore diet?" She's got messed up organs. She's missing part of the system to produce bile acids, release bile acids, and she's also hypoglycemic. So I mean, she's probably got some gut dysbiose as well, and perhaps she's pre-diabetic or diabetic and has elevated blood glucose. How would you guys do it? I mean, how long would you start? Would you transition carefully? Would you do certain things? Would you include supplements? Like, what's your takedown on this kind of situation?
Definitely transition slowly every time, no matter what. Like certainly with gallbladder and things like that. The biggest issue here to me is the pancreatitis. I wouldn't even know whether to. It's really tricky. I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm not sure, really. I don't want to say. It can be quite severe, can't it? And I think some people that have issues with their gallbladder, can't they get pancreatitis as a consequence? Am I right in saying that?
Well, what is the cause of the hypoglycemia? Because if you've got a problem with your pancreas, see, many people just go, right, insulin. Well, don't forget it produces glucagon as well. And glucagon puts your blood sugar up, and they work in a yin and yang fashion. So the pancreatitis could be, basically systemic inflammation. There could be some inflammation going on there, which is therefore causing problems. So you have got a few things going on. If you look at the gallbladder, let's do one bit at a time. So the gallbladder, what's the problem there? Well, the gallbladder has been removed, and it stores bile, which is used to emulsify fats. So that's its purpose. It's a contractile muscle that concentrates it as well. But the liver is remarkable and resilient. And what happens is the duct that leads to the gallbladder, when the gallbladder is removed, it becomes like a surrogate gallbladder. You still produce the bile acids. What you haven't got is that concentration, that contractile force, that the muscular concentration. But that starts to happen because, like I say, the liver is adaptive. You can lose 70% of your liver and it will regrow. I mean, this has been proven. So taking your gallbladder away is an issue. It's a real thing that we need to consider. So the first thing is to not look at all the influencers that were saying like 1 meal a day, for instance, because that's probably going to be too much fat in one go. So you'd look at smaller meals with a bit more frequency and maybe just keep away from the fats initially and just get your bile production up. So the next thing that will happen, you will have a knock-on effect. Once you start eating fats, and therefore you will be replacing some carbohydrates, which will reduce your inflammation. Once you reduce the demand on the pancreas, you're going to have a reduction in alpha and beta cell activity because you're not inflaming, you're not increasing the blood glucose so much, therefore requiring lots of insulin. Then you're removing that trough when the insulin overreacts, because the body is like that when it sees that highly toxic carbohydrate, and then you get that sort of roller coaster effect. That's not going to happen. You're going to have more consistent blood glucose management. So the glucagon actually can start to pick up a bit because there's less dramatic falls. So yeah, you have to manage it and be very careful. I would definitely take things out that sodas and anything that's going to overstimulate the pancreas. So that would be the carbohydrates, certainly processed foods. I wouldn't do protein isolates and things like that. I would do real whole foods to take the stress off those two areas. And then you might find that the hypoglycemia starts to correct itself. So you have to be careful with hypoglycemia because obviously that's as dangerous as hyper. And the way to stop that is to make sure that you're eating enough, so the small frequency, but you don't have to have the fast-acting carbohydrates. One of the things that happens when you eat protein, and this is often misread by people, when you eat protein, the demands from the digestive system are 5 times as much as when you're eating carbohydrates. So what happens when you eat protein is your blood glucose slightly drops, and you get a physiological response where glucagon is elicited to bump it back up. So I actually feel that those hypoglycemic events will become less likely with a protein diet with moderate fat, because you will be getting a more physiological response going on all the time, because your body is pretty smart, even with those things that are a little bit compromised. But in saying that, I would definitely try and get into a community and have some hand holding. Definitely try and find some sort of support group. This is not flogging my group. I have a community. I'm not saying you have to join that.
School. Join school.
Yeah, my low carb school, where, you know, for a monthly thing, you can get involved and other people can help you as well. You can take pictures of your meals and everyone will tell you what's going on. A blood glucose monitor, I think, would be really good. If you can afford a Keto Mojo, that'd be really great, because then you could also see what's happening with your blood glucose and ketones. Sadly, we can't tell what's going on with the insulin, which would be, you know, like super brilliant and efficient. But it is something you can definitely do. That is not a triad of problems I haven't seen before. I mean, because I deal with obesity and diabetes on a daily basis, not my own, by the way, I'm just saying, you know, people I consult with, that's definitely something you
nice
can look at. Long term, you'll probably do really well with it.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I think I tweaked my headphone out of its 3.5 millimeter jack. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm of the same mind as you, Stephen. I think sometimes people try to do this thing with the protein and drop it really low, and it's like, you probably don't need to do that. You could be just stressing out your body. Insulin could be too low. You feel lightheaded. You know, there's loads of angles to take it, but I would honestly look into a consult with someone or some sort of coaching plan, something where you can just work through things meticulously, troubleshoot any problems that you guys do have, obviously. So yeah, just put that's Stephen's link on the screen now. You can see that way. I can't twist my hand around. But yeah, that's how you can get hold of Stephen. Somewhere along there.
Yeah, Lee can't see. He's got his glasses on.
Yeah. I'm just going to whiz through this one just because we want to make best use of your time. So the curd is a kind of cheese. It's European, Western European. It's quite mild. It's a bit like cottage cheese, but it's not. It's a bit more watery. Can it be included in carnivore diet? Yes, if you tolerate it. That's it. It's an animal food. You know, some people remove these things for the hell of it. In most cases, it is for the hell of it. Some feel better, some don't. So you can just experiment yourself. But there's no rules with your diet. We're not here preaching to you or telling you what you must eat. We're just saying, try what you like, makes you feel good. Carry on doing that. Try not to get ill. Next question. Apparently a serious question. I think they're all pretty serious questions because dealing with people's health outcomes, and some people might actually be dying behind the screen right now unless they get our support, apparently. I've had people email me recently saying I need help like today. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock at night. Why are you emailing me in the middle of the night? Serious question. Would you recommend carnivore for severe OCD or intrusive thoughts? And if so, how would you go about it? Also, have you seen any success stories about carnivore and OCD? I would say there's a lot of interplay with autism, ADHD, neurodivergence in general. I've experienced a benefit. I know Stephen's spoken with lots of people. Stephen's done a lot of interviews, and so has Lee. So I'm going to leave my thoughts there, but I'd say it's definitely helpful. But what about you guys? Maybe start with Stephen.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Firstly, I have success stories with this sort of thing, and I would say I would have more, but most people who have been through this don't want to go public. Actually, they're a bit ashamed or embarrassed, which is a real shame, especially when they can put it behind them. But it shows what a stigma there is to this sort of thing. Currently dealing with somebody who is going through it and can't believe the difference the diet has made. And also fasting, actually, therapeutic fasting. Not looking to lose weight, but they're doing it for therapeutic reasons. So if you want to know how it works, I can tell you that a little bit, but why it works is blood sugar stabilization is one of the biggest things that really helps, because you're not getting those peaks and troughs, so you're not getting other demands on the body. It helps with neurotransmitter regulation, because obviously we're dealing with mental health. There's less influence on serotonin levels with this way of eating compared to carbohydrates. They definitely interfere with serotonin. Going back to inflammation, we mentioned that earlier, because your inflammation is less, therefore everything helps in the signaling. It helps with production of hormones that you need. that is one of the great things. Then you get the ketogenic benefits if you do get into ketosis every so often, which you don't have to, which definitely shows some sort of neuroprotective effect. I think if Richard was here, it'd probably go on for the next 25 minutes about all the studies. But I think that's pretty nailed on when we talk to people like Dr. Georgia Eade and Dr. Rachel Brown, people that deal with mental health on a day-to-day basis. The ketogenic benefits are there. And I think we know with seizures as well and stuff like that. And oddly, I think it just makes you a little bit more calm in general. There's less anxiety in general. I just think that's because your body is not trying to find nutrients that it's missing. You know, if you give it enough protein, if you want to look into the protein leverage hypotheses, which I think is pretty nailed on. If you're not eating enough of what you need, that is a stressful situation for the body, but hence you get cravings and stuff like that. I know there's emotional cravings as well, but all in all, I think it ticks many boxes. It's certainly worth looking at. But also outside help. If you have those things, then you could get an expert in that field. So you're looking at, like, you know, if you're an American, I don't know, you can do like the brain spotting coaching and stuff like that, and deal with those thoughts as well as a separate thing. Because I don't think diet is, you know, going to fix it all, but it's certainly going to help you, give you the environment to thrive.
For sure, yeah. What about you, Lee? What's been your experience?
The only thing, I haven't heard anything anecdotally, OCD, etc. like this. I have seen an anecdote from people with Tourette's. I have mild Tourette's. I've never really been diagnosed, but I do have. I twitch, and it's gotten a lot better. I sort of, you don't hear me shout things out, but I'll do like little things at the back of my throat that's quite subtle. But I've seen some success stories on that front, and obviously when we're dealing with mental health conditions on the whole, when you switch from, say, glycolysis to beta oxidation, you're using fats for energy, basically. That's very therapeutic on the brain. It's very therapeutic just in general. I think that it's like Stephen said, it's very calming. There's lots of healing going on. You're nourishing your brain. You're going to get more DHA, EPA, and things like this, which your brain's going to love. Like, I do agree with Stephen. I don't think the diet alone can be an absolute miracle in certain situations like this. You know, you might find that it can help, but it might sound strange, and you may already have one. I don't myself, but it might help to just like get something like a dog and introduce some chaos in your life. Because I think that sometimes when we become used to our environment and we're very particular, we need this to add there, and, you know, we need to turn on the light 3 times. And then, but when you've got a dog running around, it's kind of like, good luck with that, you know. So it might be like a distraction, another responsibility other than just trying to satisfy your brain, satisfy your own needs.
Lee, just 1 second. Stephen's got to pop off now, but just to take time to thank Stephen for coming on. He looks very dashing in his purple shirt, and the LED in the background looks absolutely spot on. So cheers for coming on. And if anyone wants to reach him, obviously go through the website. I just showed on the screen earlier. But yeah, sorry, carry on, Lee.
See you later, mate. Yeah, that's all I would add. You know, it's probably more than diet. So perhaps look at your routine, look at your environment, and something like a bit of chaos introduced to your life, believe it or not, can have the opposite effect. You know, I think for some people that they get anxiety when they take a day off. They're workaholics. Those people need to learn how to relax a bit more. And then you've got other people that they're very hedonistic and they relax too much. And those people need to book in jobs for that week to continue to be busy. I think it's to balance this. This is where I do believe balance is important, because given our current environment in modernity, that there's a lot of things that aren't natural. And I think that our brain aligns with that, and that can kind of, we need to course correct. We need to override that. And so diet's one thing. Take it easy. Fasting is a great tool as well. I think you'll find that when you fast, maybe certain proclivities will kind of die down a little bit. I found that, you know, when I fast, it's quite spiritual. But on top of that, in addition to diet and lifestyle like that, I would say adopt some responsibility, get a dog, look after someone's child, you know, anything like that, responsibility and a bit of chaos, and it can actually do wonders.
Absolutely, yeah. I won't rehash any of the points they said, but very eloquently put, as usually. Not bad for a window cleaner. Yeah, lovely job. We've got a question here from Saya. I like the picture. It looks kind of like a dinosaur with an emoji on it. I can't really tell. But if you let me know in the comments below, I'll be able to see. But I'm sure Lee and I are looking at this with us, the glasses on right now, not being able to tell what it is. But it
I
looks
don't
pretty
see it's all like one colour.
Yes, the question is, did any of you jump through the barefoot shoes rabbit hole? Many people report health benefits from switching to barefoot shoes. I think they're a fantastic idea personally. They just are expensive. You can get these straps which you attach to your shoes, but how long they'll live for, the survivorship won't be very good, in my opinion. But that's just my guess. I know Phil used a pair of shoes like this, and to be honest, I would myself, if I had a bit more coins. I'm not allowed to ask for money apparently through live Q&As anymore, because apparently it makes me a criminal. Apparently it's theft for someone to donate money through super chats to my YouTube channel to answer questions that they send me as part of a paid service. Bizarre. I don't know. But yeah, the barefoot shoes. If I was out and about more, perhaps I did Lee's job or something where I was window cleaning, things like that, outdoors a lot. Yeah, I'd get a pair. It'd be one of my priorities. For me, I'm grounded probably 21, 22 hours for the day. I've got a den space down here, like a sensory deprivation cave, basically. Grounded pillows. Same with my bed over there. It's got a grounding mat beneath it. There's a red light panel there, and there's a panel just behind this pillow here. I've got Keto Pro products here. I've got the massage guns over here. I've got blue blocking glasses there and there. I've got every corner of my room basically has some sort of biohack in it, so I don't really leave bed without at least about 6 of them I counted before I even move. So yeah, what's your take, Lee, on barefoot shoes? Is it something you sort of invested and save money for, or is it quite low tier on the?
I've never looked at the value of them. I've heard nothing but good things. That's all I will say. I haven't tried them myself. I haven't even looked them up to buy any. I ground as much as possible. It's kind of my morning routine at the moment. Grounding, sunrise, a bit cold, embrace the cold. But I've heard nothing but good things, but I haven't personally experienced them myself. So I take it that they ground you electrically, right? They designed you're grounded, as well as they separate the toes, etc., and they're very natural, just like walking in bare feet kind of thing, but with shoes.
That's the ideal situation, yeah. So effectively, it just means at some point you've both feet are going to be on the ground, or one foot's going to be on the ground. You're going to get a pass of electrons through into the body, which help with detoxification, anti-coagulation effect on the blood by a factor of, I believe it's 4. Could be wrong. Do your own research. So I think it's a good subtle background biohack which you can implement, and you're not going to waste a load of money long term doing it. It's not like a subscription where you have to keep buying things. Like a mobile phone, it's like, that's 50 quid, 40 quid out of my bank every month. This you actually get practical use out of them. I think they do have good wear and tear on them, so very good. We got a question for Lee apparently from the Carnivore Ords. Question for Kent. Like yourself, I don't have a colon. Do you have taken any additional supplements while on Carnivore? Because I've been on Carnivore for 2 years, I still struggle with nutrition.
I suppose I'd want to know why are you struggling with nutrition? Is that based on a blood result, or are you having some symptoms? I mean, for me, myself, I haven't really been taking supplements at all, other than quite recently with just electrolytes from Keto Pro, non-flavored electrolytes in my water. I don't really believe that there's much of a requirement other than just to listen to your body in terms of salt. So definitely just salt your food to taste. And I mean, I was definitely being quite liberal in the beginning. We're often told, as ostomates, that we're going to have real issues because of that sodium, hydration, perhaps electrolytes and things like that. They can get kicked out of balance through not having a colon, which makes a lot of sense. But for me, if anything, I've backed off more and more from the salt. I honestly listen to my body. Sometimes, if I've cooked my food and it just wants a bit more salt, I'll go and grab a bit of the Malden flakes and pop that on. That seems to do me quite well. So I don't know. I would want to know a little bit more in terms of what you mean by you're having problems with nutrition. Do you know that you have deficiencies? I'm not sure. But I would say that if you find that your output's quite liquidy and it's a bit inconvenient, you can get some grass-fed gelatin powder, and that will just thicken it up a little bit. That can help. Other than that, maybe a bit of cheese. If if you're not adverse to dairy, then a bit of cheese can help stodge that up as well. But it just depends. Honestly, I'd have to know. You're getting cramps. You know, is it potentially magnesium, potassium, too little sodium, too much sodium? Is dairy getting in the way of magnesium? I'm not too sure. So I would honestly want to know a little bit more to give you any kind of real tips.
Well said. Yeah, there's plenty of nuance, this kind of thing, and I appreciate people would think, oh, I've got this disease state, this issue with whatever organ. Although your advice should be the same. No, sadly not. I've had people before where I've had nearly identical clients in terms of like their age, race, exercise intensity, how frequent you go to the gym, body fat, sex, gender, whatever. And it's like they've got a different diet because they've started at a different point. Your mitochondrial health can impact the amount of food you have to eat. And if you're in a bad mitochondrial state, you're not going to be able to eat much food. It might be that adding some of the ideas that Lee said just now about, the gelatin powder, things like that, actually improve things. Sometimes it's not always about making things pass through quicker or slower. Sometimes it's just about getting more nutrient density in. Your body will do the healing itself. I always say in like videos nowadays, and I think people don't really take it on board, but I really do mean it. Our bodies do have the blueprint to heal themselves, generally speaking, as long as you're not at the end of your genetic offspring, your lineage, your heritage. So if you're a very unhealthy person, born unhealthy, the chances are it's evolution's way of saying, look, no offense to you, mate, but we're cutting the straws here, and that's it. So you don't know. The background is so important, and I appreciate you only get so many characters to answer these questions, but we can only provide very generic advice, obviously outside of consultations and things like that. But yeah, solid answers, Lee. Appreciate your inputs. I wouldn't be able to know what to do, so you're the best person to ask. We've got a question here from Mad Wedge. I recently saw a discussion on Reddit. Great place for information, guys. That if you've got fat to lose, you should eat more leaner and only incorporate more fats when you reach your weight loss target. Is there any truth to this? Lee, what's your take on it? You're pretty ripped.
In some ways, yes. I think, again, it's always about listening to your body. If your body wants to eat fat, when you're eating fat, it's like, oh, yes, please. I want a bit more of that. Eat more fat. I wouldn't think, oh, look at this ribeye. It's really fatty and lovely, but I want to lose weight, so I shouldn't eat the fat. I mean, if you eat the fat and it tastes good, your body wants more, and you've got to understand that there is obviously clean nutrition coming in. But there is also something to that, of course, and a lot of people find that when they come down to their healthy weight, their appetite increases and they may want more fat because now their requirement for exogenous fats has gone up because now they're not eating away at their own stores. So that, I think it would naturally happen, just listen to your body and that will tell you, I want more fat, and most likely that will happen when you get down to a healthy weight. That's basically my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. What I will say is, and I know this to be fact, and I say it's based on my experience and knowledge, understanding of nutrition. The less food you eat, chances are the less you'll weigh. And it sounds very obvious, but that is the fine and honest truth. There was a whole thing maybe it's about a year or two ago when I started up on YouTube a little bit about like 80-20 fat ratios, percentages. And I will say, well, 80-20 of what? If you're 20% of your caloric value, labeled food value intake from protein, and that is 5 kilos of steak per day, that means you're eating like 20 bricks of butter a day. It doesn't give any context whatsoever to what someone is actually eating. People always do this in consultations. I say, how much meat do you eat per day in raw weight? And I'll say, well, I eat about 2 ribeye. Doesn't answer my question. They ask the question over and over again. I eventually get to the end point where I get the answer. But it is quite frustrating because it seems to be common sense. If you eat less food, you'll be less weight. And obviously, yeah, if you eat a pile of sugar and that's all you eat, you'll be diabetic and you'll eventually lose muscle mass and eventually you'll reduce your metabolic rate. Then that amount of sugar will become a surplus at that point. I think the idea of looking at it as like a mass balance model is the most effective because it is the most scientifically valid and it has been tried, tested, and proven against the calories in, calories out metric. What they find is you eat less food, you weigh less. Now, there's obviously specificity towards the macronutrient intake that you do have. Obviously, if you eat more protein, you're probably going to retain more protein and muscle tissue on your body. And you'll know that because if you eat too much protein, you might become hypoglycemic. You might get a blood sugar crash. That is actually very, very, very rare, largely speaking. I don't come across many people that experience that. Now, if you've got gut dysbiosis, microbiome negative shift, and bacteria in your gut hasn't adjusted to the diet you're having, making all these changes, keto snacks one day, bone broth the next day, steak and eggs the next day, your diet's all over the shop. Which case, yeah, if you eat something that is a burden to your body, it's an inflammatory toxin overburden because it's too much, as anything can be. You got a problem then. Your body's going to do something strange to say, stop eating or throw up or don't eat anymore or your stomach's full. So we have all these mechanoreceptors and nutrient density receptors in our bodies, in our brains, which identify how much food we're taking in. So I like Lee's element of, try it, get lean. When you get too lean, your body will tell you, and that's absolutely bang on true. Now, in a case where you're trying to get very lean, I do tend to recommend increasing protein much higher for that satiety feeling. But at the end of the day, you have to have your specific goals, your specific endpoint. So if you're saying to me, if Lee came to me and said, okay, I want to get shredded out my mind and retain all the muscle I've got in my body. So I might say, okay, do, 160 protein per day. And say he's just got 2 weeks to do it. And he says, right, I don't care what the diet is, just got to do it. 20 grams, 30 grams, 50 grams of fat per day. I'll probably say close to about 100 if I'm honest, but say it's 50 grams per day. He'd run that for 2 weeks. He's already a lean chap. If he got even leaner, he's going to binge. It's inevitable. So you have to make sure your endpoint is realistic. Now, right now, as we speak, I'm sat at 4.3% body fat using digital body fat calipers. That's accurately tested by myself, who've been doing body fat tracking for about 10 years on my same parts of body over and over again, routinely every week for about 10 years. It's a useful trend. So I also recommend having a right yardstick, a right measurement, a right metric to work out, are you getting better or not? And the yardstick will change depending on who you are. For me, to spot visual changes, I need to take photos, look in the mirror, do body fat measurements. Just because my level of body fat is so low, for me to accurately track it, I'm going to have to use a more precise measurement. Whereas someone that's coming to me from a standpoint of being, say, 30 stone, 400 pounds, I don't know. And yeah, you can step on the scales, it gives you good indicators, but you're going to lose water weight the first week. What I want to know is, how do your clothes fit? Do you feel strong? How do you sleep? How do your health markers come about? What would you feel like day to day? That's what's going to be the most integral part of the diet. So I think, largely speaking, you're going to want to decrease the amount of food you're eating. Your protein should remain relatively stable. Professor Bark and I are of the exact same mind when it comes to protein and fat intake. So protein remains stable to sustain you, to do what you need to do, recover, build muscle, whatever. Then fat is like the lever in terms of your output. You can't go too far in either direction. Your body will fight back. That is the biggest problem I experience with most people. But a few weeks back, actually, maybe a few months back, Stephen did this brilliant presentation on our consortium, our Team GB chats. And it's on blood sugar levels, if you remember. I can't remember if you're there. You might have been.
Sure, actually.
He basically put up a presentation on the screen. He sort of looked at it. We're talking old science, not like brand new stuff. There's loads of follow-ups, loads of things, and they're like, okay, my protein was this. It did this to my blood sugar levels, and they didn't find a significant bump.
Right.
So there's obviously not an exponential increase in blood glucose levels in response to protein ingestion. Obviously, if there's too much, you'll be constipated. You won't be able to keep that up for very long. So it's very unlikely that someone can become diabetic or insulin resistant by following a high protein diet. It's extremely difficult. Experiments myself, I've done this myself and had it with clients. I've had some people run up to about 300 grams of protein per day with no significant or noteworthy increase in fasting blood glucose or HbA1c over a 3-month span. I'm of the same experience as that, but I'm eating relevant and specific to what I want to achieve and my body composition and my appetite at that point in time. Recently, so I'm currently in a mass gaining phase, for what it's worth. I started on macros at 360 protein, 20 carbs, I believe 200 fat. I did that for about 4 weeks because I kept getting results. No extra body fat, but my weight was going up, getting stronger in the gym, feeling a bit better, recovering a bit better in some cases. Now, if I start to gain body fat, what am I going to reduce? The protein or the fat? The fat that gets transmuted directly into fat before it is oxidized is likely to be the biggest lever in terms of my body composition. So therefore, I'm reducing the fat if I gain too much fat. But now, if my digestion's slow, which it has been the last few days, so with that in mind, I spotted the problem. I made the intervention. Protein dropped to 340 from 360. Carbs kept around about the same 20 grams from dairy, eggs, coffee, things like that. Don't eat much eggs nowadays, guys, but still. And the fat increased to 210 grams. So a more efficient energy source to help my training, recovery, sleep, things like that. But I don't have excess soreness in my muscles. Therefore, I don't need extra protein. So I can start to reduce that. Now, when I get really sore, my muscles sore from the workout, yeah, increase the protein a bit, but it doesn't have to be a lot. So if I say added 10 grams extra per day, so go up to 350 again for a week, you're looking at 70 grams extra protein per day. And that's about the absolute, per week. So that's about the absolute amount of muscle tissue almost anyone could gain, like lean muscle tissue in a week. So I don't need to increase it more than that because there's no indication for me to do it. That's probably the best take you're going to get on protein, fat, macros, and body composition I think exists. But I've covered all the angles I possibly can. But I see this come up a lot. That's why I speak about it so candidly and passionately, because I see a lot of misinformation. It's not like I have all the information, but when I see the misinformation making people fat and ill and not getting better, we have a problem. So that's why I've sort of come across a bit heavy-handed with my answer, but that's because it's been my experience and Stephen's experience. I'm sure Richard probably find about the same thing. I mean, Richard spoke about his bodybuilding competition in the past, and he said, "Look, I did a protein, fat, keto diet. He did a carb up at some point, fair enough, whatever. But he was modulating the fat as like the lever, so he was cycling the fat. I did exactly the same for my body composition, bodybuilding competition this year. So on the weekend, not always, but sometimes after 7-10 days of steep deficit in terms of food, I'd add in a fat refeed, and that just means an extra 50 grams of fat per day. Now, is that extra 50 grams of fat on a Saturday going to make me fat? No, it's not. I'm going to sleep better, recover better, train better, and therefore it gives me that impetus to carry on with that program. So sometimes it's not always about dipping down. Sometimes it's about just keeping steady, analyzing a result, making the intervention change, dipping down a bit. Okay, that worked. Do it again. Don't change what's not broken. That's one of the biggest issues I see in the carnivore space is trying to make changes that don't necessarily need to be made. Do you think I've covered that sufficiently? Is there something else? Or
yeah, for sure.
It's a ramble. That's what. Yeah, I'm big on macros. I think macros are probably the biggest thing people get wrong on the carnivore diet. And it's always one extreme. It's always too high or too low of one. Well, this would be a good discussion point for you. I mean, Lee, you might be able to do a video on this, actually, like a newspaper article review sort of thing. So it's from Carol, and it says, what do you think of the bovea additive to dairy cattle feed in the UK? You've probably heard about this.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's to try and reduce methane, that horrible greenhouse gas that's going
those burps, Lee.
cause. Yeah, I think it's a bad idea. You know, they're obviously trying to bypass the process so that it's like a ready molecule, ready that the rumen doesn't have to deal with, or something like that, isn't it? So it kind of like bypasses the process of them producing all this methane. I think I think as a consequence down the line, these cows are going to get very sick. And that's just going to require more antibiotics. And apparently antibiotics increases methane. It's just like, you know, so I think it's obviously bad. There's so much misinformation. Like the moment with Keir Starmer, I mean, he's just a joke, isn't he? I'm not a fan at all. All this inheritance tax on farmers and things like this. It's just terrible what they're doing. It's just like, it's all nuts. It's crazy. But yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, hopefully this stuff isn't going to be kind of a permanent thing, you know, because they're going to run into some problems and it's going to be evident, you know, but whether they care or they're going to do anything about it, or whether they've got this plan to kind of just try and shut down the farms, shut down dairy farms and try and eliminate cows and methane constantly. It's a non-issue and they're making the problem out of absolutely nothing, but it's going to become a problem. Yeah, it sucks. It really does. All this kind of stuff. It's just regress. Massive regress. It's not progress. It's not smart. It makes me wonder, you know, do they know? Do these people that are implementing this know? Or are they idiots? Or are they kind of like, well, we've got a plan here. There's an agenda. I don't know. But it sucks. Yeah.
it's almost as bad as blocking out the sun with these things. We have to be careful what we say, obviously, but you guys can read between the lines. We don't have to say it out loud. It's it certainly could be a possibility. I don't rule anything out nowadays after 2019, 2020, whatever it was.
Yeah, it sort of hit us at 20, didn't it? 2020, I guess.
Yeah, we honestly, no one really knows what's going on. Our best bet is just to keep to ourselves, enjoy life, and promote good health and activity, happiness above all. I think if you're happy, you can achieve a lot. I think. I don't really have much to add. All I'd say is they found a way to put some sort of enzyme inhibitor into an animal's feed to make it do something which is not natural.
Yeah,
there's nothing to. It doesn't seem like a positive intervention. You know,
exactly,
I don't see the gain. Yeah, bizarre. We'll carry on now. So probably whiz through the next ones, perhaps depending on what they are. We did get a super chat from Cherie, so thank you very much, Cherie. Much appreciated. Thank you for sharing your experience of carnivore with your different fitness goals while managing autism by keeping it simple. Sure, cheers. I do greatly appreciate the kind words and also the $5 super chat. Much appreciated. It's all about just getting better. We've all got different experiences, and what I will say is everyone on this panel that you guys see does have a very unique experience with the carnivore diet. We've all got some different take on it, some different way of eating. I'd say actually largely I probably eat the most similarly probably to Lee out of everyone here. But it's funny because Lee's probably most slender and most ripped guy up here, so it's bizarre. But you know, then I speak of Phil. Phil's lean as well, very ripped, decent muscle mass, and he eats a completely different diet to me. He just eats meat, literally just meat. So we've all got to share our takes on it, and you have to find people that resonate with you. It doesn't mean you shouldn't redirect if you have to redirect. So you might hear me say, oh, you know, omega-3 and fish is great for autism and neurodegenerative diseases and neurodivergence. True, yeah, it is. But it doesn't mean I eat fish every day. I do at the moment, but there'll be a point where I won't. So it's not about getting that finely tuned 200 grams this, 300 grams this. It's about having that ballpark where you feel good and just finding where you resonate. And it could be different for everyone. I'll say, largely speaking, most people I work with are eating about 4 or 5 animal foods each day. That seems to work well for them. And some people have to cut back further just because they've got intolerances. Yeah. The guts aren't healthy at the time. So, yeah. But, yeah, I won't ramble any more at that point. We'll move to the next one. So, we've got a question from Paul Parkin. When fasting for any length of time, should I be taking an iodine supplement? Thank you. This piece of string question, Lee. There we go. Do you have any take on it at all?
I've never even considered an iodine supplement in the context of fasting, to be honest with you. But do you know what? I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I see a video the other day. It was a compilation video. It was kind of like taken, well, sort of mocking like vegans and the amount of supplements that they take. But there was evidence that appeared to be evidence that like all of these kinds of supplements, they're just a problem, that they're not a good idea, and that it can actually damage thyroid over time and all this kind of stuff. In my opinion, if you're fasting, you know, I think dry fast, water only fast is the way to go. I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I think, you know, seafood and eggs and things, you should be able to get enough iodine. I don't see the need really. I don't personally supplement iodine. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. You know, I don't think there's an absolute requirement for anything like that, especially during a fast.
Yeah, I don't personally benefit. There could be some obscure protocol out there where they say, "I'll fast for 3 days on water and take this many drops of iodine." I don't know. There's a protocol for everything out there, guys. There's a protocol for drinking piss out there, for God's sake.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking. There literally is a urine drinking protocol. So it's an interesting one. I'll be most conscious about electrolyte balances as well. If you're very lean like Lee, then maybe don't fast for a week. Probably not a good idea. If you're active, maybe don't. It's a bit of a stress. But yeah, my first call with fasting is usually electrolytes, things like that. Can help sort of bolster up and patch potential problems. Long term, most people should be able to go about a full day, in my opinion. So it's not based on science; it's just based on what I think to be true. People should be able to go a full day without any electrolytes, like a full day just drinking water. And by the end of the day, they might have a bit of a fluttery heart, but that's about it. So there we go. The next question from Carnivore odds to follow up, struggle to maintain bone density and joint health. I do consume plenty of sodium and electrolytes. Sounds like a obviously partly a gut issue because you can't absorb much. So I guess her bottleneck is being able to, one, have the appetite and the machinery to consume the food, to nourish herself with the right stimulus for bone density through training, with enough protein to build bones, because that is what bones are made of. It's not really calcium, guys, it's protein. So yeah, I mean, what are we missing here?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, I can't imagine she's not eating enough protein. You know, anyone on the carnivore diet is eating usually sufficient amounts of protein, especially when compared to any other diet, you know. So it's true. Bones are mineralized proteins. We need the protein. And when you're sitting down and you're eating a bit of fat and protein, whether it be an egg or ribeye steak or sirloin or whatever, fish, you know, you're having a whole food that's balanced. It's coming the way nature intended. You're getting enough protein. So that's a very tricky one. I guess I would like to know what surgery you've had. Is it just the colon that you're missing? But I don't seem to have any issues, you know. I'm sure you probably don't even want to hear that. But yeah, eat enough protein, eat enough fat, eat to satiety. You sound like you're adding sodium and electrolytes perhaps to your water and salt to your food. You're doing all the right things. I'm not sure whether certain exercises might help. You know, I do a bit of jump rope and that can increase bone density, but I suppose it depends where and how. It's very tricky, you know. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the idea of adding in some exercise. I always work from the outside in with people. So what are you doing right now? What's the biggest lever you can pull that's the least amount of stress and hassle to your life? For a lot of people, if you're trying to do some exercise, a home workout 2 or 3 times a week. Now I'm literally talking like a set of push-ups, some sort of towel isometric row, like bent over row, deadlift sort of thing, and a body weight squat or a wall sit if your knees aren't that good. Change your foot positioning, change your knee depth, things like that. That's how I take it from an exercise standpoint. So it's so hard to really know. I would have to plug my own ebook here because I do cover a lot of this sort of stuff in terms of exercise. My channel's got playlists full of exercise technique, narrated stuff, everything you probably need to sort of build muscle and bone density on the carnivore diet you'll find on my channel. I'm sure the other guys have some similar stuff as well. Yeah, we'll move on to the next bit. This will actually be the last thing I'll check on the screen, guys. So apologies in advance if we have not yet been able to answer your question. I am aware that there's been a lot that have come through. Please remember we are streaming to, at this point in time, 4 different outlets, which is great because it means we get lots of viewers, but it means we can't answer everyone's question. We do limit these to roughly this current time once every 3 weeks. So you may be able to squeeze another one in before Christmas. I know Lee's probably up for it. Phil's probably up for it. And the other guys probably as well if they're free. But yeah, we hope to give you guys as much insight and information as possible. And make sure, please, that you subscribe to my channel, Lee's channel, Steve's channel, Richard's, Phil's, all the guys, because we do put out quite a bit of content between us. If you watched us all day, you probably have like a live TV of just us rambling and talking nonsense in a lovely British accents. So, yeah, it's just the last point I wanted to make from Andy. So, I just wanted to highlight Andy's contributions to this chat. So, if you've been watching by and you've seen Andy pop up, he is an expert channel member. I think on my channel at least. So he's someone that I trust with information. He's been following me and the other guys now for quite a long time. So definitely listen to him. Same with Andrew Scarborough. They're not necessarily content creators, but they do put out good information. They do have their ears on deck and they do take account things that we do say. And he's just said here about mixed information regarding iodine. And yeah, that's completely true. The problem is we have a lot of reductionists, not just in our community, but just any community. And the fixes are usually the same thing. It's usually SIRS, it's GERD, it's hyperinsulinemia, it's oxalate crystals, it's the wrong macros, gut microbiome dysbiosis. All these different things just come up, and where you lie is so individual to you. There's no way to know, okay, Andy's problem is this, therefore he has to take iodine. There's no rules, guys, and we're not on here saying you have to do this or take the supplement or buy this. It's just doing what intervention is the most pickable. From a tree, you can just grab that from the tree. and just say that was worth it, that wasn't worth it. I use a number of different supplements because what I do in terms of bodybuilding is not natural. There's nothing natural about bodybuilding, guys. Being heavily muscled is not natural. So therefore, I have to make unnatural interventions to mitigate damage. So when people see my supplement stack in a video that's got coming out soon, I think they'll be like, "Oh, is that what you take?" I'm like, "Yeah, that keeps me on top of things. That's helped my blood markers. I've seen a subjective and an objective improvement. Therefore, it is effective." Now, it doesn't mean at some point I'm not going to try and take these things out because it's just a waste of money. You don't always need to buy these things or supplement these things. And people make the claim, about magnesium and iodine. Not much in the soil, not much in our foods. Yeah, probably. Are you deficient in it? Who knows? You have to get the right test done, which is another rabbit hole in itself. So approach people like Stephen for things like blood testing, analysis, and things like that, just to make sure you're not wasting your money. Someone that's been through the medical system, and Lee and I spoke about this in massive depth yesterday, I think like an hour or two. Get the right scans done, get the right diagnosis, get the right tests done so you know where your health lies at that point in time. Don't just take one person's opinion because it can often be wrong, and that's been my experience twice this year. So they got 2 out of 2 wrong in terms of my diagnosis. So Lee's had the same experience. I won't badger on about it, but yeah. Do you have any concluding thoughts, Lee, before we wrap this up?
Do you know, the only thing I will add is obviously I've got this event coming up on the 14th of this month, and it's been very last minute, so I don't know if we've got many people going, but it's at the SEM Innovation Centre in Raynham. I've got information on the community section of my channel. I'm probably going to make one more promotional post. But if you can make that, that'd be great. Coach Stephen Richard's going to be there, Richard Smith, Kerry Mann and Adam Lacey, obviously from the States, Alex Cannon from Liverpool, and Lauren Tucker from near Bath. So, yeah, if you can make that, see you there, basically. That's about it.
Yeah, nicely said. Just want to get across this point about, so we have this way of nominating channel members to be, or channel subscribers to be experts. So usually we see them on our screens or our videos, and they'll have a green highlighted text for their name. That means they're a trusted channel member. So it means they're someone that has been on board for a while. I won't use the word fan because it sounds a bit pretentious, but they sort of follow your stuff and they know roughly what you're going to say. So definitely keep your eyes peeled for
Andy knows
stuff.
For sure. No doubt about that.
And the last bit was about my sleep. Just because I don't do this very frequently. So, Carnivore, so how has your sleep been lately? You mentioned you're sleeping 3 to 4 hours before. Thank you very much for asking. Appreciate that. I sleep about for 3.5, 4, between 3.5 and 4.5 hours a night at the moment. It's not great. It's not a long-term solution. Believe me, I manage every variable possible. I've got red light on at nighttime. It's green blockers, blue blockers, light blockers, blue blockers, red blockers. All of them. There's nothing I can do to maximize my sleep. My body fat is low, so my cortisol levels are always a bit elevated at the moment. It usually takes a bit of time after contest prep to get back to square one. So I'm aware of that, and it just means that it might take a few more weeks. But my REM sleep, if anyone's wondering, I'm tracking it on my smartwatch recently. I don't like smart tech, but it gives me a way to track things to work out if something that I'm doing is helpful or not. And what I'll say is my REM sleep is about 1/3 of the average humans. I don't get much sleep or recovery. So that's why I use all these supplements. I take one thing out, that score goes down further. So it's tricky. I'd love to say I have the solution to it, but I've tried all solutions to it. I wake up in pain, in screaming agony, as if I've got a corkscrew through my entire lower back and glutes and legs. So there's not an amount of magnesium glycinate I can take, guys, that's going to stop me screaming in agony. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's life. I think we've covered a lot of ground today. So again, sorry we couldn't answer your questions, but appreciate you stopping by. And we'll keep you guys up to date with the next one. So it'll probably be in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, see how we feel. Bear in mind, we're all very busy in the run to Christmas, especially Lee, who's got a lot of stuff to do, Rich as well, Steve, all of us actually. So I'll just leave it there. But thank you very much for joining. I'm going to leave a lovely, delightful video for you to watch as we zoom out.
Introducing Beef Up Carnivore Bodybuilding Bible. The ultimate guide for men and women to lose fat and build muscle. And the best part, Carnivore It's only $12. Don't miss out on the most detailed resource available. Get a copy now at